We ought to bake a sunshine cake. It does more good than a big thick steak.
Hi, I'm Jill and you're watching ThermoHow, Thermomixing made easy. Today I'm really excited to share with you my recipe to make focaccia. It's quite easy to make, but you do need to allow about 3 hours because you'll need the dough to go through 2 rises before you can bake it. To make focaccia, you need flour, salt, you'll also need water, yeast and honey, and you'll need some oil to keep the focaccia from drying out. You'll need a large bowl for the focaccia to rise in, and you also need a large round flat pan to bake the focaccia in. Once I've shown you how to make the focaccia, I'll also teach you how to make a flavoured oil to put on top of it. And to make that, you're going to need some rosemary, some garlic and some sea salt. So let's get started. To begin with, we're going to add 300 mils of water to our Thermomix. We're going to heat it up to 37 degrees, as that's the best temperature for the yeast to work in. So we want to add the water to the Thermomix and put it at 37 degrees for 2 minutes at speed 1, or until the light on the 37 button comes up. We begin by weighing the water. Now we're going to heat the water to 37 degrees. So we put it at 37 degrees for about 2 minutes, speed 1. I've had the Thermomix running at 37 degrees for 2 minutes, but it's quite cold today, so the water hasn't quite warmed up. The light on the 37 isn't on yet, so I'm going to put it on for another minute because I want the water to be the right temperature for the yeast to activate. So again, I'm going to put it on 37 degrees for 1 minute, speed 1. Now that my water's at 37 degrees, I'm going to add 10 grams of yeast and 10 grams of honey. The honey is going to act as a sugar to feed the yeast, and I'm going to mix these together for 1 minute at 37 degrees on speed 1, just to get everything mixed together. So I add 10 grams of yeast, 10 grams of honey. Now that I've added the yeast and the honey to the Thermomix bowl, I want to dissolve the yeast in the water. So I'm going to heat it to 37 degrees and mix it for 1 minute on speed 1. 37, 1 minute, speed 1. Now that our yeast has dissolved in the water, I'm going to add 450 grams of flour and 10 grams of salt to the Thermomix bowl and knead them together for 6 minutes. So to knead it, you put in 6 minutes, put it on the closed lid, and you're going to press the knead button. Now when this kneads, the machine does bounce around a lot, so do stay near it and make sure it doesn't fall off the edge. Now that our dough has finished kneading, we're going to take it out. We're going to cover it with some oil and place it in a bowl and leave it for an hour to rise. You want to put a bit of oil inside the bowl, like this, to stop it from sticking. Put a bit of oil on your hands as well so it doesn't stick. Your dough should be slightly sticky, smooth and elastic. So you want to gently pat the dough with a bit of oil to stop it from drying out. Drip some oil on it and just kind of pat it gently. Make it into a bowl, and then you're going to place in your bowl and cover it with some Glad wrap or some cling film. You're going to leave it for an hour until it doubles in size. Now while our dough is resting and proving, I'm going to show you how to make an infused herb oil. You can actually buy them, and one of the ones I love is the Copper Mistake garlic one. However, it's also quite easy to make your own, so I'll show you how. You're going to need some rosemary, some garlic, some sea salt, and some regular oil. To make your herb oil, what you're going to do is you're going to add 2 cloves of garlic and some rosemary to the Thermomix bowl. We're going to start by chopping it for 3 seconds on speed 7. Put in your garlic. You can use fresh or dried rosemary. Fresh rosemary is a bit nicer, but I've only got some dried today. And a big pinch of rosemary. We're going to chop it for 3 seconds on speed 7. Now that our garlic and rosemary has chopped up together, we're going to use the Thermomix to act as scales to weigh our oil. You put the bowl on top, you press the scale button. We're going to use 50 grams of oil. Now that I've got my oil all weighed out, I'm going to scrape out the garlic and the rosemary and put it in here and set it aside to rest until I'm ready to bake the focaccia. My garlic is chopped up perfect. I've now added my garlic and my rosemary to the oil. I'm going to add a pinch of sea salt to it and then set it aside to let it rest until I'm ready to cook. Just add a pinch. The dough has now been resting for an hour and it has almost doubled in size. We're going to take it out, knead it for just a little bit, but you want to be careful because you don't want to overwork the dough at this stage. We're going to put it into our pan that we're going to be using to bake it in, and then we're going to let it rise for another half an hour. As you can see, our dough has risen. Gently knead it, just a little bit. And then we're going to put it in the pan and stretch it to fit. Once it's in the pan, we're going to cover it with a bit more oil so it doesn't dry out. Cover with the Glad wrap and leave it for another minute. I've still got some oil left in my bowl, so I'm just going to use that. Now I'm going to cover it with the Glad wrap and let it set for another half an hour. My dough has now been rising for another half an hour. So what I'm going to do is I've preheated my oven to 160 degrees. I'm now going to brush the oil over the top and then press in with my fingers to give the focaccia that characteristic marking. I'm then going to bake it in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes or until it's golden brown. So I start by brushing my beautiful oil all over the top. I'm now going to sprinkle it with some salt, and then I'm going to push my fingers in to push everything in and give it that characteristic markings, like this. I'm now going to put it into the oven and bake it until it's golden brown. Usually takes about 25 to 30 minutes. My focaccia is finished baking, and as you can see, it's nice and golden brown. I'm going to turn it onto a wire rack and let it cool, and I can store it for a couple of days in a sealed airtight container. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, please make sure to like our Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more helpful how-to videos. I'm Jill, and you're watching ThermoHow, Thermomixing made easy.
Oh, we'd ought to bake a sunshine cake. It really isn't so hard to make.
How?
Fresh tears, a pound or two of pleasure.